It's week number 2 of the Read What You Own challenge. I see the path ahead of me, and I'm feeling good about where I am. Hello, welcome to my channel, another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am participating in the Read What You Own challenge, where I have challenged myself to read 25,000 pages of books that I already own before buying another book. If you are not familiar with this channel, I will provide a link in the description of this video to give you more information. I am doing the platinum level. As I said, that's 25,000 pages or 100 books that I must read before I buy another book. And this week, I had one of my first challenges. NYRB Publishing announced a 40% off sale of their entire catalog. If you bought more than $75 worth of books, you would have gotten free shipping. I was pretty sure this sale was going to come up in December. I didn't plan for it. I knew I would skip it. But for some reason, it coming up in November was just a little more hurting. It tempted me even more. But I resisted. As you can see behind me, I own a lot of NYRB books. That's New York Book Review Classics, if you do not know. And it may be my favorite contemporary publisher, because they publish a lot of books that I want to buy. But I resisted. The first book I finished was The Night Parade by Ronald Malfi. This is selected by Cliff at Cliff Dark Gems for his Fright Night Horror Book Club. You can check out more details on his Discord channel. This essentially is the story of a father and daughter on the run. There is a plague across the world. It is known as the Wanderer's Folly. It makes you lose your mind and maybe imagine things, and eventually you will bleed out and die. Not only that, the birds are gone and insects are ascending. So in this story, the father, David, must take his daughter, Ellie, across the United States. He is trying to locate his half-brother and gain sanctuary from government authorities, because originally they were in a CDC facility. They were studying his wife. His wife had something special about her in relation to the plague, and they needed to study it. The same thing applies to the daughter, and the man is convinced that the CDC, the government, wants to capture and kill his daughter. So that is the bare bones of the plot. I think it's a little more suspense than horror, but there are some really great horror scenes in this book. All I will say is that there is a human skull, and someone puts a die into the skull, and they shake it around. And depending on how that die comes out of the skull, someone is going to get killed as a human sacrifice. I'll leave it there. I liked this book a lot. I have read at least one other novel by this author and a few of his novellas, and based on the strength of this book, I definitely want to read some more. The Cherry Orchard by Anton Chekhov. This is being read as part of Chekhovember event. This is the second play that I've read in November, and I have to say I'm not getting along with Chekhov's plays. In this play, a family or aristocratic family in Russia is falling on financial hard times. They own an estate somewhere out in the country, and they cannot pay their debts. So it is being sold off an auction, and on this land is a wonderful cherry orchard that the new builders, they assume, are going to chop down. It is a good character study. It's listed as a comedy. I did not find a whole lot of laughs in this story, but maybe that is just me. I guess I'm glad I read these plays by Anton Chekhov. I know most of the group is watching movie adaptations or stage adaptations that are filmed. I just read the play. I'm really not motivated to watch anything. Nightworld by F. Paul Wilson, 400 pages in the print edition. I listened to the audio book. This is the 6th novel in the Adversary cycle, so it's hard for me to talk about this book without giving away a lot of spoilers. I will give you a general idea. The Adversary cycle is 6 horror novels, and in this 6th book, the sun is late rising one day. I don't remember the exact times, but let's say it's supposed to rise at 7:40 a.m. in the morning. It actually rose at 7:46, and the sun set 6 minutes early, too. The astronomers claim that this is an impossible event. You cannot vent or change when the sun rises or sets. And the next day, it rises even later and sets even sooner. And then some of them do the calculations. By the end of the week, there will be no sunrise and there will be no sunset. And during this calculation, a hole opens up in New York City, Central Park. And after dark, things start crawling out of that hole. They have to flee when the sun rises. But as you know, the sun will not rise or set at the end of the week. I intend to do a video talking about the entire Adversary cycle later this week or next week. MacArthur's Bloody Butchers by Brian Bruce, 246 pages long. Brian Bruce is known to a lot of people here on BookTube as the channel Bookish. This is his nonfiction account of his uncle serving during World War II in the Pacific Theater. It is a work of military history. And now military history is not a subject that I normally read in. Military history talks a lot about troop movements. So when reading this book, you just have to understand there's going to be a lot of talk about Company G was in this spot on this day. They moved to another spot later in the week and went to another area in the next month. There's a lot of troop movement. But there's also stories of the men involved in Company G. One of them was his uncle, and he did talk to some of his family and read over the papers of Company G to get this history down. I did like it. The military history parts did get a little dry in places for me, but it does have some fascinating stories. The stories of how Company G got called the Bloody Butchers was rather intriguing. I won't reveal in this video how they got their name, but I have to wonder if a modern army did the same thing that this Company G did during World War II. Would they be praised for it? That's an interesting question. There's also more scenes where one of the other men in Company G, who was not his uncle, went to Hiroshima after the bomb was dropped, and he saw some of the shadows on the wall of the people who were vaporized, and that the army was not really forthcoming in talking about radiation dangers. If you like history, if you think you can read through the military history and the troop movements, I can definitely recommend this book. Brian did a very good job of making it very clear what was going on, and it got me to read military history. As I said, some of the troop movements did make my eyes glaze a little bit, but that's sort of the nature of what you're going to be getting in military history. I can still recommend it. The Improbable Impostor, Castro, by Jorge Luis Borges, all of 6 pages long. This is the second story in this collection, and I presume one of Borges' earliest short stories. It is not going to be his best by any means. It is the story of what it means to take over someone else's identity and become an imposter. It is told in that nonfiction style that Borges did so well. And I read this and I listened to the audio book version at the same time. I am going to be reading one Borges story per week or thereabout. So this book will last me well over a year because Borges, while in these early stories, may not be at his best. They're still pretty good short stories. And I'm going to go into a section of absolutely top-notch short stories later on in this collection. The Long Walk by Stephen King, 318 pages in the print edition. I listened to the audiobook. I first read this novel when it was published in the Bachman Books in the 80s. I was at university at the time. But recently I saw a video from the channel Reading from the Depths. It is created by Lekden. Lekden is a Tibetan Buddhist monk, and he is starting a course. So he's calling this a course. He calls it The Buddhist Path in Fiction, Stephen King edition, where he talks about Buddhist concepts in the works of Stephen King. And I had to tell myself, that is one of the most unusual concepts that I have encountered. And how could I say no to that? I don't consider myself a Buddhist, but Buddhist ideas in the fiction of Stephen King? Count me in. I will leave a link to his video so you can check him out and decide if this is a path that you want to join on too. And The Long Walk is really a fantastic novel. I had forgotten just how good it was since I read it in the 80s. I guess it is a dystopian novel. I have been told that Stephen King wrote this when he was a freshman at university. How a man so young could have written a book this good kind of baffles me. Maybe he did some revisions to publish it in 1979. But I really like this book. It's moving to the top of my Stephen King books. And I'm told that this is Stephen King's reaction to the Vietnam War, the senseless waste of male lives being tossed out for nothing. And if you do not know this story, it is some sort of dystopian future where they have a yearly event. young men, I guess between the ages of 16 and 18, can join this sporting event where they are told to walk on a road, and you have to walk until you die. You are given a warning if you slow down below a 4-mile-an-hour pace, but at the fourth warning, you get a bullet, a ticket, and you're dead. And then this walk continues until there is only one survivor. So it's a great premise, and honestly, I kind of like the characters too, because these are young men. None of them are over 18, and they're doing this walk, and they're talking about why are they walking? Why are they subjugating themselves to this horrific event where 99 of them are going to die? Absolutely guaranteed. So there's a lot of psychological depth, a lot of philosophical discussions. Why would a society put up with this? In today's environment, I think I can understand why they would put up with it. We're putting up with some really horrific things in our society, and maybe even more horrific things to come. So I can highly recommend The Long Walk. It may be my second favorite Stephen King novel as of now. I still have to do some rereading of some other books to see if I put other books ahead of it. Right now, Pet Sematary is a little bit ahead still, but I have not read Pet Sematary since the 80s either, so maybe I would change my opinion. But please, go check out Lekden's video. Maybe you want to join on this discussion. I think I will enjoy it a lot. Okay, those are the books that I read this week. I read 1,439 pages. My challenge total right now is at 2,459 pages, or about 9.84% of my total. I'm a little bit ahead, and I'm happy with that. I feel like I'm keeping a very good pace, and I'm looking at week 3 and saying, I'm going to get you week 3. I'm going to get my 1,000 pages done, maybe a little more, but not too much more because, you'll just have to wait until week 3 to hear about the big book coming down the pike for me. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.